Today I've got 8 projects I made out of scrap yarn. If you've got scrap yarn to use up, stick around. This is actually part 2 of my organizing my yarn stash video. I took you through the mess I had created in part 1, and I decided that part 2 needed to be using up some scrap yarn in some buckets and piles and bags that I have, because I can't organize all the good stuff until I get rid of some of this old stuff. So if that's what you're into, let's get started. First thing I did was actually go through some of those baskets and buckets and bags of what I had for scrap yarn and look at it honestly and decide if number 1, it was enough to do anything with, and number 2, I was actually going to use it. Like, some of it was real scratchy old stuff that I had thrifted and picked up, and I had to look at it and really decide if I was going to keep it and I wanted it. I did throw some of it out if I just didn't think it was usable. So I think that is very helpful in knowing what, step to go through forward. Sometimes you do have to purge. So what I've got left for scrap yarn is in this one tote here. So I will probably make one more of these videos when I go through the rest of this scrap yarn. Some of these came from that mystery bag that I opened. If you haven't seen that, it is a long video. It's like a half an hour. I will link it up here, but it was me opening a bunch of weird random stuff in a thrift store bag. But yes, I have got this that needs to be dealt with, but I don't feel quite as much urgency towards this because it all fits in this tote and I can easily store this in my yarn closet. But I would like to kind of go through and make another one. So here's my 8 projects that I did make from my scrap yarn, and some of them are all scrunchies, I will say that. So I had just enough of this very soft brown beige yarn for one scrunchie. I had a little bit of homespun that I made another little scrunchie out of. So 2 there. That's the thing, you don't need a ton of yardage. I buy just like a package of hair ties from the Dollar Tree. I had gotten some goodie ones that were marked down on clearance at Walmart for $1. And I just keep them in a baggie, and I thought this was a great way to use up some scrap yarn. And I just have like a little pile of items that I give away. Some of them I keep for myself, of course, but I just have a little pile of giveaway items, and I think these are great. Little gift to have in there. So 2 of those. Then this one is a little bit of a stretch for me. If you don't know, I live in Iowa, and so I made an Iowa State scrunchie. I'm not super into sports. I know that sports exist, but that's about the limit of it. But I do get invited every year to an Iowa versus Iowa State party. So I did make this scrunchie right here with some red and gold soft yarn there. So something to do with it. I guess I didn't give you a close-up. There is the homespun. It's kind of a neat texture on that. And then here was this bulky yarn one right there. But yeah, so this I probably will only wear once a year when I go to that Iowa State party. But great way to use that up. This next one is a 2-parter. This was some mystery yarn. I didn't have a label. I thrifted it, but it's actually been one of my most favorite. It's this gray with the silver metallic. I don't think it's Red Heart because it's a little bit softer and it's a little bit like squishier than Red Heart is. But I have it's the same pattern as this hat, a granny square hat that I made out of this, which is my favorite hat. So you've definitely seen this yarn. But I did make up a scrunchie, and then I made myself up a headband out of it too. So I will go ahead and, all right, so here it is. I mean, I probably wouldn't wear it with this outfit because it's a little bit busy, but I just did that same type of pattern where I just bunched up the first couple rows and left the top straight and just made it the length of my head. You just chain and then keep keep trying it. You know, I don't like saying go a certain amount of inches because every yarn is a little bit different with how much it stretches and how tight your tension is. So I really just measure about my head size as I'm going. And then you want to make it just, I mean, you want it to be a little bit tight because it's gonna pull, otherwise it'll slide down your head. But yep, so I got this headband right here that matches this scrunchie. Let's move on to the next one. So I was very excited about this headband that I made right here. This is the first one I've made with buttons. So it actually is not buttoned. I made the length of it. This is a 6-weight yarn, and I started doing was it single crochets, and it was just turning out way too stiff. So I actually did double crochets on this, so it wasn't such a solid mass of a headband, but I made it to the, you know, the circumference of my head, and then I actually sewed it together, and then I just used a needle and thread to sew these buttons on. So I like it, and as you know, if you've seen some of my thrift hauls, I have been thrifting buttons, so it was a great opportunity to use some scrap yarn and some buttons. So since I already had this on hand, that cost me $0, and it was literally just enough to finish this. I think I had like this much left over. So that, and then my buttons, it cost me $0.25 for all 3 of those. So I will take this off and I will give you a quick look at what it looks like. All right, so here it is. As you can see, I've got those double crochets, and to make it a little bit looser, I didn't go in and like I left that chain space and started in the next one. I almost feel like it has almost like a macrame type look to it, which I am enjoying, and I think this will be so great. One of my hairs. So great for the fall, and like I said, it was a great chance to use these buttons just with a regular needle and thread. So kind of first and a fun little different thing that I hadn't made before. Right? Another wearable. This one, oh my gosh. So there's a little bit of story with this yarn. It is the Bernat Softy Chunky, and I had ordered it from Mary Maxim quite a while ago, and I got it, and it was a pretty good price. I want to say $2-something, $2.99, $2.89, something like that. But when I got it, the package was much smaller than I anticipated. So I don't know if it was like inexperience ordering yarn online, or if it just, I don't know, maybe it was portrayed slightly different than it was, but this is pretty much like a bulky 5-weight yarn. It wasn't, I guess I heard chunky and I thought it would be like, thick, you know, one of the Thick and Quicks or something like that, but it was not. It's pretty soft and squishy, but I tell you what, I had frogged this yarn so many times. I tried doing this style hat and it was just stiff and weird and was not working. I tried and I tried and I tried to make something decent out of this and really struggled. So no pattern for this. What I did was I actually started with my magic circle and did 10 double crochets, and I did an increase for one, so that was an, you know, the initial, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of increase. So when you start with 10, you know, there is 20 in the next, and then 30 in the next, and then 40, and then 50. So I got that, and I was just going by my head size. And what I did then next was I went ahead and did the next 1, 2, 3 rows in the back loop, so I could get a little bit, I don't know if you can see, like right there, the ribbing on that. Just, I wanted it to be a little bit more textured than just a simple double crochet. But yeah, so I did that, and then just 1, 2, 3 rows of single crochet in the back loop right there. So this is definitely like a winter beanie, but I am finally happy with it. I will probably never ever use this yarn again. I guess you can see this isn't totally finished because I still have my tail from my magic ring there. Sorry about that. yeah, okay, so here it is, a simple double crocheted beanie. If you want, I will go ahead and put directions for how I did this in the description box. If you want to make one of these yourself, it's very simple. You can definitely figure it out, and you'd kind of want to go by your head size anyway. But I'll have that all written out below. So yes, here is my last wearable, and then my next item, I totally went in a different direction than usual for me, so I'll show you that next. I had 2 balls of Red Heart metallic in black left over. I had done a witch hat, and I believe the creator for that is Play Hooky with me. I will show that off when it gets closer to spooky season. But in that pattern, you use 2 strands of it together to make the hat nice and stiff. So I had 2 balls left over, and it's pretty. And I had actually recently seen a tutorial for like a simple drawstring bag. I will link that below because I cannot remember the creator's name for that. So I kind of use that as a jumping off point. And since this is black, I don't know how well it'll show. So I may end up having to turn the camera around and go in some really bright light to be able to show it to you. But I made what I would call like a Victorian Gothic style little purse. So here it is. Let me get up close to show you. Oh yeah, that's doing okay. So all I did was make a long strip of, I think I did half double crochets here, and then I stitched them together on the outside. I did a row, you're not going to be able to see this right here, of double crochets here and single stitches or chain stitches so that I had room to put the drawstring in. Let me see. You can kind of see it right there. And then I went ahead and made a ruffle with some double crochets on top. And then I did make this little flower floret rosette right here in the front, just to add a little more detail to it. So totally different than normal, but I thought if I were to go to a Halloween party or something like that, and I wanted to carry my phone or anything like that, this would be kind of a nice little thing. And you know, it's super lightweight. I can carry it on my wrist. So I'm not normally this gothic of a person, but again, for scrap yarn, I absolutely love how it turned out. I don't know if I will write up the description or not. If that's something you're interested in, maybe let me know in the comments and I can write that up. All right, so part 2 of organizing my yarn stash coming to a close, where I addressed scrap yarn, and I had 8 simple projects that anyone with very basic crochet skills can do. Like talking about yarn, if you're obsessed with yarn, then this is probably the place for you, and I would love it if you would subscribe so we can talk more yarn. We've got finished objects, works in progress, hauls, unboxings, all sorts of fun stuff. Thanks for talking yarn with me, guys.